what I want to do is try and show you that actually you have two options. If you don't want to change, A, turn this off, leave the channel. B, continue doing everything I am about to talk to you about. But the truth is, shit happens. That is life. Expect it, accept it, move on. Don't let someone convince you away from the thing that you've been working hard for, that you've committed to, and that you want to achieve. Because you know what? They actually turn around to me and say, I look fucking awesome. I look great. Thank you for pushing me to eat more calories. Thank you for pushing me in my training. What's up, guys? So today's episode is going to be a little bit different. Firstly, it's my birthday, so happy birthday to me. I actually tried to take these down, but apparently that is not good fun, and it's not in the spirit. So I had to leave them up. Katie, my partner, is a big influence on me, and she says we should celebrate these things, and I agree. So hey, I thought I'd be a sport and leave them up. So happy birthday to me. Anyway, let's get on with the video because hey, we got some cool stuff to go through. So last week, while I was doing some learning and some YouTubing of things, I was looking into behavior change, why people make the decisions that they make, how we can influence those decisions, and of course, more importantly, how we can either prevent those things happening or influence better decisions being made going forwards and of course in the future. And I came across this term, inverse thinking. That was the first time I'd really heard it. Then, a few days later, I was on a call with one of the advisors I have that help me with the business, okay? And she said to me, how do you want this project to look? And I responded with, and I just had all these ideas, but none of them really came to me with any clarity. Luckily, she put me out of my misery and then turned around to me and said, okay, stop. She could obviously see I was in some kind of pain. Tell me what you don't want it to look like. And all of a sudden I turned into Eminem from 8 Mile, you know, where he's like choking and then all of a sudden spits up the best rhyme you've ever seen. I just couldn't stop talking. I had all of the things that I hate this, definitely don't want it to look like that. I really detest this, don't want it to look like that. I kind of like this, but it's not really my vibe. I don't want it to look like that. And all of a sudden I was narrowing down my options left, right and center. This was brilliant and very, very helpful because just like when you're searching for gold, not that maybe any of us here are gold diggers, but if we were gold miners or gold diggers, then what we would do is we'd have to get through all the shit first to be able to get the good stuff at the end. So instead of going right for that, we pick up a whole load of ideas, we sift through them, and in the end we're left with very few ideas, but those ideas are the gold dust. That got me thinking, if that has worked so clearly for me in the goal that I had in terms of the project we've got running inside the business at the moment, maybe it would work for you guys too. And maybe I could run an episode of YouTube, as I am here, on how looking at the things you're currently doing is holding you back from where you want to be. Looking at the things you're currently doing is actually the reason you are where you are. And it's interesting because most people discuss the things that you aren't doing. And actually, more often than not, it's the things we're already doing that lead us to a lack of results or lead us to being stagnant with our progress and things like that. So what I'm aiming to do, and I've got some points written down here, so if you see my eyes flick down through this, it's going to be because I've got them written down for what I wanted to discuss. What I want to do is try and show you that actually you have two options. If you don't want to change, A, turn this off, leave the channel. B, continue doing everything I am about to talk to you about. Of course, you do have the option to change. And if you want to make change, then A, I recommend continue watching this video. And of course, subscribe to the channel. Cheeky plug. And B, do the opposite of what I'm about to say. So I'm going to list down through 15 things that I think people do that are counterintuitive, but I'm going to give you the thing that you need to do in order to make it intuitive and helpful for you. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. My name is Xander. I'm the head of coaching here at JLX Coaching. We do online coaching for mainly females, and we do a lot of fat loss, a lot of glute growth, and a lot of muscle gain. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. Point number one, you don't set any goals. This is a surefire way to not achieve anything because clearly you don't know where you're going. You don't know what you're trying to achieve. And of course, if you don't know where you are going or what you are trying to achieve, how are you going to know what you need in order to achieve that? So make sure you're setting goals. That's a really important part of the process. Point number 2, you have no idea of your starting point. Now, I've got a really good analogy for this. Let's say I'm driving to your house. On the way there, I get lost and I give you a call. I say, hey, I'm currently lost. I'm not sure where I am. Can you give me some directions on how to get to your house? The very first question you're going to ask me is, hey, why are you coming to my house? I'm just kidding. The first thing you're going to ask me is, where are you? Can you describe your surroundings? What buildings? Are you near this? Are you near that? So you're going to want to create a picture, essentially, of the position that I'm in. You need to do the same. Create a self-audit. Understand what your progress picture's like. What are your body weight? What can you commit to based on your schedule? How often do you train? How often can you train? What are you currently eating? All of these things, build up a bit of a self-audit, which will allow you to have a clear picture of where you currently are. Most people have no idea. And if you have no idea of where you currently are, how the hell are you expecting to know what steps you need to put in place to get to where you want to be? Point number 3, you think you're a professional athlete. And the truth is, this means you're going to be working in such finite percentages. So when we're looking at macros, you're like, right, I must hit the gram. Or we're looking at training, I need to, make sure I optimize this, and this. And you're looking at all the minuscule things, and you haven't even nailed the main simple aspects of the process yet. If you look at professionals, the things they do exceptionally well, far better than anyone else, is the simple things, and that allows them to then move on to the next stage, which is looking at those smaller parts, the intricate aspects of the process, and then look to optimize those. But without the main bulk, without those simple things done well, they wouldn't have been an elite athlete in the first place. So sure, if you want to continue not making progress, keep focusing on those little things, because that will tire you out, it will fatigue you out, and it will wreck any chance you have of motivation, sustaining the process, and of course, in the end, getting any results. Point number 4, you're extremely rigid. So when one thing happens, it throws you completely off your plan, you give up, you're back to square one because this doesn't work. Now, being really rigid can help in certain aspects of a process. For example, when you're near the end, you're very hungry and you want to really dial things in, or if you're in a gaining phase and you know that if you don't get that food in the morning, then you're just going to be screwed up in the evening. But the truth is, shit happens. That is life. Expect it, accept it, move on. That's the only way we can deal with these things. A lot of people go into these processes thinking they're going to be some kind of miracle journey, but actually shit does happen, and it's always when, not if. So understand that things are going to get in the way. We're not going to be perfect. We don't want to be perfect. We just want to keep rolling with the punches, keep moving forward, and keep working towards that end goal. Point number 5, you exercise, you don't train. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're someone who's looking to improve their mental health or their health markers and things like that, then sure, exercising could be perfect for you. This is things like going to classes, going on walks, going on runs. Not necessarily anything that you would note down, not anything that you could track specifically. Training is defined essentially by making progress. It is following a plan. It is committing to that plan over a long period of time. That plan tends to have set increments as a part of it. The key things we need to look at when we're trying to decipher whether we exercise or train is, do we have a plan in place that is scheduled, that is well thought through? So it's not just, I'm going to go to the gym Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's, I have this session with these exercises, these sets, these reps, this intensity on this day. It's very well thought out. And essentially, we need 2 big things. Training close to failure, progressive overload. Nail those 2 things and we will be training and we'll be making great progress. Point number 6, you don't respect yourself or your goals. This potentially is controversial, and some people are going to get maybe upset when they listen to this, but it's absolutely true. You respect the opinions and thought processes of other people far more than your own goals. And you might be thinking, well, how the hell is that true? Well, put it this way. I've seen so many times in my coaching career where people have been like, I just had to go to this event. Cool, lovely, I hope you had a great time. What's the problem with that? Well, that meant we had to get large pizzas afterwards, and then obviously we went for drinks. Why did you do that? Well, because they was just, always saying, you need to do this. You are therefore respecting somebody else's opinion more than your own. You're expecting to get these goals and achieve these great things that you've been working really hard for, or to throw them in the bin for that week because someone you respect more than you respect yourself has said, oh, go on, let go. And you go, oh, okay, fine. This is a really big part of it. Don't let someone convince you away from the thing that you've been working hard for, that you've committed to, and that you want to achieve. Because they won't be there at the end when you're disappointed because you didn't achieve it. They'll say, oh, it's fine, let's go out for drinks. Kind of not helping the process, is it? Point number 7. You try to mimic your favourite influencer, YouTuber, Facebooker, blogger, anybody like that. And unless they work with us, which you're pretty safe if they do, he likes to say, then this is a terrible idea because, look, I hate to break this to you, but there's 2 honest truths that I think is important to understand here. The first thing is that these people are trying to get better engagement. They're trying to show you that they live the perfect lifestyle. So the chances are, a lot of them will be taking photos of these amazing meals, eating half of it and chucking the rest in the bin. Because they want to show you that they're flexible. They want to show you that they can nail everything. They can eat the food they want. They can do the exercise they like. They can eat all this food and drink all this drink and nothing changes for them. This is bollocks, and it's just not true. For some people, actually, it might be, but these are like the 1%ers, and they are definitely not people, they're the people with the unreal genetics. We don't want to follow those people, really, because quite frankly, they set unrealistic expectations for a start, but equally, they aren't helping us with us trying to commit to our process and the goals that we have set. The second thing is, if you track people for long enough, okay, now I've been on Instagram for many, many years. I've done this job for many, many years. I followed people for many, many years. What you will see is that they will be super flexible all the time. They'll say their progress and their process is amazing and that you should do the same thing. But then if you look over the years at their photos from 4 years ago, have they made any progress? Sometimes no. What they've done is they've gone in these diet phases, they've lost 8-10 pounds, maybe even kilos. Everyone's celebrating them. Oh, you're amazing, you're great. Then they start covering up. They don't post bikini photos anymore. They don't post photos of them at the beach or photos in their mirror in their underwear or anything like that. If you notice this, what's actually happened is they've just hit a fat rebound. They've gained all of that weight back again, and they don't mention body weight until 4 months later. Oh, it's been a really stressful few months, so I'm going to go back into a dieting phase just to tidy things up. And everyone's like, oh yeah, you're great at this, brilliant. No, this is just not somebody you want to be following for an example. It's not, don't get me wrong. There are times where things change, but fundamentally, this is why following people on Instagram, which is their highlights reel, in the search of inspiration from the respect of, I'm going to copy what they do, is just not a good idea. So if you don't want to make results, crack on. Keep doing this one. Number 7's a belter. Number 8, you're afraid of getting bulky and or the opposite, which is obviously too thin and losing muscle. So there are 2 things I normally see. I don't want to get bulky. I don't want to lose all my muscle. Here's 2 facts for you. Firstly, I've worked with women now for the best part of 10 years, and a lot of them, and I have never in my whole life of coaching, or my life in general, met someone who's gone to the gym, lifted a lot of weight, put in a lot of effort, been in a gaining phase or a dieting phase or whatever have you, turned around to me and said, Xander, I've got too bulky. Do you know what? They actually turn around to me and say, I look fucking awesome. I look great. Thank you for pushing me to eat more calories. Thank you for pushing me in my training. I've never met someone say the opposite. Okay, so it's really quite a phenomenon that it's almost like a unicorn. Nobody's actually ever got to the point where they've gone, yeah, I'm too bulky, I hate this. It's just like the mythical thing that people think might happen because they look at professional CrossFitters or professional powerlifters. Hey, if you're going to be professional, you're going to need that muscle mass. But if you're not, I wouldn't worry about it. And then the thing I often say to my clients is, stop letting the future you get in the way of starting now. So we look at, into the future, oh, I don't want to be bulky. Hey, do you know what? Do you know how much effort and time and blood, sweat and tears is going to go into getting that much muscle mass? A lot. So by all means, get started because it's not going to happen overnight. Point number 9, you're a fiend for short-term gratification. This is a crucial one, whether you're gaining or whether you are in fat loss. This is a really big one I see so often, and it's essentially where people choose short-term happiness over long-term happiness. The easiest example I've got for this is, let's say you're dieting and somebody offers you a brownie for dessert and you go, oh, that just looks too good, I'm going to eat it. knowing full well that you'd manage the whole day and the meal itself perfectly for you to hit your goals, and knowing that eating that brownie, which is 400 or 500 calories, puts you out of the deficit you've worked so hard for today to facilitate. That is a prime example of where short-term gratification overcomes the long-term gratification. And obviously the long-term gratification being I'm achieving my goal and working each day to do that. The truth is, a lot of people see it as missing out. I don't want to miss out. It's not about missing out, because each day that goes by isn't finite. And don't get me wrong, sadly for some people, freak accidents do happen. So what I always recommend people do is say, hey, if people are asking you to go out and they want you to be social and drink and things like that, say, look, I am dead keen to come out. I'm really excited for this, but hey, by the way, I'm not going to be drinking my usual amount. I'm going to have one soft drink followed by gin and tonic, or so on and so forth, to manage my calorie intake because of X, Y, Z. And if they kick off about that, you want to question them and their motives. But the other thing to do is, if they're asking you to go on a pizza night or something like that, you can say, hey, look, that really doesn't work for me at the moment because of my goals, but I still want to be really sociable with you. So, hey, can we still meet up? I'd love to have a pizza. We can make them at my house. If we make them, that's going to be so much better for me. It's so much more sociable as well. And of course, it helps me hit my current goals. I really don't like it when people get so hepped up about, oh, I can't go out and be social. Bollocks. Of course you can be social. You don't eat and talk at the same time. You do one or the other, unless you're rude and, talk with your mouth full. So fundamentally, the thing we need to consider here is, are we actually upset about not being able to be social because you can still be social? Like, I recommend people go for walks if you want to be social, go for a coffee, those kinds of things. Or are we just upset that we can't go out and eat loads of food? Something to consider. Point number 10, you don't track a single thing you do. If you look at any major business or any good business, they track every ounce of everything. And we do the same. I do the same in my training. And the reason you do that is because if things aren't going the way you want them to go, you need to understand what metrics there are in play that you can change in order to change that end result. We have two types of measure. We have lead measures and lag measures. Lag measures are the end results of those lead measures. I call these inputs and outputs. The inputs are the things that we can affect. Diet, nutrition obviously, training, steps, sleep, all those kinds of things. They are fully within our control. The outputs of that are things like the way that your physique changes, muscle growth, fat loss, of course, where that fat is lost, body weight, things like that. So they are the lag measures. They are the thing that comes after the lead. And so when you're tracking these things, you say, well, my body weight hasn't gone down in 2 weeks. Okay, now let's look at the things that we have been tracking. Okay, well, we've been tracking steps, calories, training, right. Okay, steps have been great, calories have been great. Hunger, I've just not been hungry recently. Okay, right, so we're probably not in as much of a deficit anymore as we were at the start. Let's change one of these metrics. Let's lower the calories or increase the steps, add some cardio, those kinds of things. And that is what makes that difference, okay? But if you don't track the things, you're never going to know what to change. So by all means, if you want to not get any results, carry on not tracking anything. Point 11, you rely on motivation over dedication. Don't know why I sound like a TV presenter there. Look, if you truly want something, go and get it. Don't rely on an emotion to decide when and when not you should go and get your goals, because fundamentally that is all motivation is. It's an emotion. What we want to be doing is saying, am I motivated to do this today? No. But what will tomorrow me thank me for now? So whenever I get low on motivation, which is as much as the next person, I try not to think about it. Overthinking things is criminal for getting things done. If you want to get nothing done, overthink everything, because you'll paralyze yourself. If you want to get something done, remember, dedication over motivation. Point number 12, you have no consideration for your actual needs. And what I mean by that is, people just think we're all part of the same. Oh, he or she did this, I'll do the same. And so what you do is you go and pick up a cookie cutter program and a meal prep plan, or a meal plan from bodybuilding.com in 2003, and you think, screw it, works for these guys, I'll crack on. That's just not consideration. There's no consideration for your individuality there. There's no consideration that actually you are a different person. You might have different needs in terms of training goals, muscle groups, and volume amounts. You might have different needs. In fact, you almost 150 million% will have different needs in terms of the calorie amounts. If there was ever a reason to get a coach, this would be it. And I see people all the time, and by the way, I'm not trying to sell you here. I'm just telling you this is a good idea. I see people all the time on Instagram especially online coaches say, oh, the reason you need a coach is for accountability, accountability, accountability. To an extent, I can see that to be very beneficial. Scientifically, we know accountability is very helpful. However, I also think if your goal is important enough for you, you'll make yourself accountable. What can't you do? Hey, you'll never be able to write a program as well as I can write one, and you won't be able to do the nutrition as well as I can. Unless, of course, you have all the experience and the degree and the knowledge that I have. And that's not me being big-headed. I really hope that's not come across like that. I'm simply saying that this is my job, this is my role, and paying me to do that for you is the easiest way to get results, because you're paying me for my experience and my knowledge to pass that on to you to get you the result. Similarly, if I look at all the people I pay, I've got an accountant, I've got a solicitor, I've got people who support me behind the business. So I won't say they're business coaches, but I would say they're mentors. I have someone who helps guide me a little bit with my social media. You know, these are all people I pay because I know that their expertise and their experiences are going to be worth every penny. And that's the important part here. So when people say, you know, you're paying me for accountability, fucking hell, you could get your mum to message you and be like, hey, have you done your steps today? To be honest. But your mum might not be able to write you a killer gym program. Unless, of course, she's fitness trained. I don't know. Maybe she's like an IFBB pro in that case. Probably write a better one than me. Okay, point 13, don't make a plan to sustain your results. This is painful for me. I often set exit strategies for my dieting phases with all my clients. The only exception for that is mini cuts. So whenever I do long-term diets, the next 2 weeks I will put in their planner and it will say exit strategy. That is me letting them know that the next 2 weeks beyond that diet phase is still going to be very regimented, very much in the same scope as the diet phase, because I want them to learn to manage that hunger outside of the deficit, ease themselves back into eating a normal dietary routine, and of course, not lose any of their results. I want them to keep hold of their results. That's what we just work so bloody hard for. And so, you know, if you, by all means, want to make great results and then throw them all in the bin, by all means, don't plan what you're going to do afterwards, just meander on, and you'll probably gain back more weight than you lost. In fact, the study was done many, many years ago now, and I think it was a very high percentage, I'm not going to make up the figure because I can't remember off the top of my head, very high percentage of people gained 105% of their weight through a diet phase. Now, if you look at the graph, it was down, 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 up. So it wasn't they gained weight, it was they lost loads, but then they gained, so their end result was 5% higher than the start, which is really sad, because if you've ever worked with someone or you've done a diet phase yourself, you know how bloody hard they are, you know how much goes into them. Like, fuck. Put your mind to a couple of weeks after that, maintaining it. Point number 14, you're inconsistent and you take no responsibility for it. Surefire way to make no long-term progress. Firstly, it's really important to be consistent. If we're not consistent, how do we know if anything we're doing is actually working? We don't. Secondly, you don't take responsibility for it. You know, it's always somebody else's fault. Oh, they asked me to eat this, or they made me do that, or blah, 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 blah. Taking responsibility is the most powerful thing for your goals you will ever do. Promise you that. Here's the crux. If you take responsibility for something, you are grabbing that situation and you are controlling that situation for what it is. Now, if something is uncontrollable, that means we can't affect it, we can't change it. But if something's controllable, that means we can change it, we have the power to change it. So actually taking responsibility and understanding. So when I am doing a check-in for a client, for example, and they write down saying, I slipped up, I won't have that. You didn't slip up. You didn't slip up and neck a large pizza. That's not what happened. Take responsibility. Tell me what happened. I don't care. I say this so far, I don't give a shit what you do. I care that we take responsibility so we can work through those things and they happen less and less so that we build a sustainable process. For me, I'm far happier when someone dives into a check-in and says, hey Xander, just to give you a heads up, the reason my weight spiked on Friday by a couple of kilos was because after work, loads of people were going for food and drink. I was planning to stay very consistent with my diet, but to tell you the truth, I completely lost control and I end up having a large pizza, a dessert, and 5 or 6 drinks. Full stop. Fair enough. That is taking full responsibility, full control of that situation, and I'm likely to go back to that person and say, hey, I love this. thank you. Thank you for taking responsibility. Thank you for being so transparent and honest about the situation. Hey, what was the trigger for that? What do you think happened where you were like, boom, I'm just going to order a pizza? And then we can start to work and unravel those things. But if someone just says, oh, I slipped up and ate a large Domino's pizza, what can we do with that? Oh, don't slip up next time. No, that's just not helpful. And obviously I wouldn't say that, but do you see where I'm going? So taking responsibility is super helpful. Last but not least, point number 15, possibly the most frequent one that I see: you compare yourself to other people and their progress. Now listen, even if we all ate the same, we all slept the same, we all exercised the same and trained the same and moved the same and did the same jobs, newsflash, we would still all look completely different. We'd all be pretty healthy. Cool, like our bodies would react in a health sense pretty well to those things because standard exercise regimes are very good and helpful, as are generally healthy macro splits and food choices. But we would all look the same. We would all carry different fat distributions, we would all carry very different muscle, we'd all carry very different physiques, very different shapes. So comparing yourselves to other people is a fruitless task. Not to mention the fact, and this is a question I want you to answer, when was the last time you compared yourself to someone and went, brilliant, I feel fantastic? This rarely happens, if ever. So why do it? It's fruitless. What would you do in place of that? Compare yourself month to month. I've brought up a few points that involve this, and that's why I brought this in last. Look at your progress photos. Look at your behaviours and the things you do on a regular basis. Chances are you've really sharpened them up if you've been making good progress. You know, you've started going to bed at a more reasonable time and waking up consistently. You've started to drink a bit more fluid and eat a bit more nutritiously. You've started to be more consistent with your nutrition and your macros. You know, you will have changed not only your physique, your body weight, your mindset, your behaviours and all of those things. You will have also changed the habits that goes into them. So there's so many things that we can look back over the month, even if our progress in our physique hasn't changed a huge deal. What else has changed? What progress are we making versus the person that we were yesterday? And if I'm brutally honest, that really is the only comparison that you can make. So I'm just going to quickly reel off all of those points for you. Point 1, you don't set any goals. Point 2, you have no idea of your starting point. Point number 3, you think you're a professional athlete working in fine percentages. Point number 4, you're extremely rigid. So when one thing happens, you get completely thrown off task. Point number 5, you exercise, don't train. Point number 6, you don't respect yourself and your goals. Point number 7, you try to mimic your favourite influencer, YouTuber or public figure. Point number 8, you're afraid of getting bulky and or losing muscle during a dieting phase. Point number 9, you're a fiend for short-term gratification. Point number 10, you don't track a single thing you do. Point number 11, you rely on motivation over dedication. Point number 12, you have no consideration for your actual personal needs. Point 13, you don't make a plan to sustain your results. Point 14, you are inconsistent and do not take responsibility for it. And finally, point number 15, you compare yourself to other people and their progress. Folks, I hope this was helpful. I'd love to know your thoughts. Are there any in this kind of 15 that you think, shit, yeah, that's me. I'm gonna do what he said. I'm gonna change this, and that's what I'm gonna. I'd love to know. So drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you would change, or is there one in here maybe that you think, wow, that is me. That's why I'm not getting results. I compare myself to people all the time, and it makes me anxious, and I can't perform, or I'm criminal for blaming people. You know, those kinds of things. Ping them in the comments because I might be able to help, and I'd be more than happy to do so. So from me, as always, much love. Take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you next week. I will be going through some more physique-based updates, but we are just in week 1 this week, so nothing too interesting for me. I had a great deload. It was good fun, but we caught up on that massively next week. So just getting my head down at the moment and getting back in the swing of things. Take good care. Have a great week. Bye for now.